I'm honored to be here with you today. My work across my career and within Wyoming is characterized by studying literacy learning opportunities in collaborative communities of practice. Today I'll talk about 3 different areas: my current position, my scholarly background, and I'll provide some samples of projects that my colleagues and I are doing in Wyoming. In my current position, I serve as one of the 2 Wyoming Excellence Endowed Chairs in Literacy Education, and I work with colleagues out of the UW Literacy Research Center and Clinic, which I'll be referring to throughout this talk. With respect to my scholarly background, I graduated from Michigan State University in 1997 with a doctorate in educational psychology and an emphasis in literacy. Across my career since that time, I've been studying opportunities for learning literacy. My study of opportunities for learning literacy has involved 3 strands of scholarship: knowledge of students and their worlds as learners, knowledge of ourselves as teachers, and also knowledge of literacy itself. The slide that you're seeing right now shows a different way, a visual way of illustrating the relationship between students, teachers, and literacy. All 3 strands of the scholarship matter as we work with students to help them co-construct literacy learning opportunities. Also shown a different way, the model in front of you illustrates how work with teachers, work with students, and work pertaining to literacy all need to coalesce, and we need to attend to all of these factors as we're working with students to help them understand literacy. This work happens in communities of practice. Notice the word communities highlighted in red on the screen. I'll mostly be talking today about examples of ways that colleagues and I are working at the Literacy Research Center and Clinic to help foster students' literacy learning opportunities across the state of Wyoming. Notice too in the model that there's a back part of the model, and then the model projects to the future. So teachers, students, and even the discipline of literacy all come with background and histories that inform what happens as we work with teachers and students in immediate contexts. Now, I'll share a few of the many different collaborative projects that my colleagues in the Literacy Research Center and I are working on in Wyoming. The first 3 projects primarily focus on examples of work that we're doing in schools, or in case of the first example, the Teton Literacy Center. The second 4 examples include more statewide work that my colleagues and I are doing through the Literacy Research Center and Clinic. Now, with respect to the Teton Literacy Center, as the slide in front of you illustrates, the Teton Literacy Center has a positive impact on the literacy learning of hundreds of children and their families in Teton County every single year. My colleagues at the Literacy Research Center and Clinic have engaged in a 4-year collaborative relationship with the Teton Literacy Center. And in the short several-minute video that I'll share here on the screen momentarily, I'm talking with Laura Solto, who's the director of the Teton Literacy Center, and she'll talk a little bit about our collaborative work over the years. One thing to pay attention to is the principles that we enacted in our work with Laura are common across the other schools with whom we work in the state of Wyoming. So this will serve as one of many examples of the way we work with schools and entities in the state to foster students' literacy learning and teachers' literacy learning.
We had a long-term collaborative relationship, professional learning relationship. Would you be willing to take a minute or 2 and just talk about some of the most important aspects of that relationship from your perspective as a director? Would you introduce yourself, and then would you talk about that from your perspective as a director of the Teton Literacy Center?
Sure. My name is Laura Salto, and I am the executive director of Teton Literacy Center. And we have worked with you guys in many ways over the past few years. And I think the takeaway to me that has been the strongest is instilling a love for professional learning and ongoing learning into our staff, as well as a understanding of the value of reflection in our own teaching practice. And I think having an outside group and just the experts in the field come in and do the work with the team, it both represents to our teachers just how important they are, and then really illustrated that, you know, we want to provide the answers and to provide the support for what they need. Some of the ways that we've done that, and it's been awesome to see you guys build these practices, and now our organization is able to sustain those without the monthly coaching and things like that. So we've been able to build in the structures that you guys taught us, which has been really cool to see kind of that growth. So we have coaches involved in our community, and we have coaches coming in from our district, as well as we've established learning communities within our center. So each year we look at topics of interest to our teaching team, and they're able to decide how they want to go about their professional development within and choosing a community there. So that's been really powerful. I think working with you guys also created systems in our organization that we still use. So developing a framework for our tutoring program, knowing that you guys had a similar one-to-one tutoring model with some exceptions of us using volunteers, we were able to work together to develop a framework that maps out systems across our tutoring program, which was really a gap in our instruction. So that's been powerful. And then the other piece that you guys did so beautifully is time after time, you would say, like, it's about our teaching team and what they need. And you would meet us wherever our teaching team was. And if that meant, like, you know, we needed to pull back and not go as far or as deep as we wanted to, you never put stress around that, and you recognize the value in going at the pace that's best for the team, and being willing to diverge and go wherever the interest or the group went. And I think that doesn't always happen, and it was really valuable.
Another concrete example of ways we've worked in Wyoming schools is work that we did with Big Piney High School in Sublet 9. We were called by Jeff McKelkey, the principal at Big Piney High School. He and the teachers at his school had a particular interest in improving the high school students' use of information, reading and understanding of informational text. So we engaged in a 2 to 3 year collaborative project with Big Piney High School to support the teachers and the administrators in that school as they worked to develop practices to support their students learning to read informational text more successfully. A couple of key outcomes from that project include that one of our colleagues at the Literacy Research Center and Clinic, Lee Hall, developed a series of micro courses that the teachers and the principal could take to build their background knowledge about ways to increase their students' understanding of informational text. And then, as we collaborated with the teachers and administrators at Big Piney High School, the teachers themselves practiced different instructional ideas, and then they shared their learning with other teachers at the school. And as a result of that collaborative work across a fairly long period of time, the informational text reading of the students at Big Piney High School has improved. An additional project that we're working on currently is St. Stephen's Indian School. At St. Stephen's Indian School, they're developing a dual language Northern Arapaho English immersion school called Hinano Edit. And in that project, with respect to that project, my role is to lead the research component of that project as well as to serve on the core project team. Now, the research component, like all of our other LRCC-related projects, is co-developed with the Northern Arapaho people, with cultural mentors, and with teachers at St. Stephen's Indian School as we work to document the ways that the school is enacting the dual language immersion work at their school. This slide in front of you shows some concrete examples of ways that we're working collaboratively to collect and analyze data with respect to the unfolding of this dual language immersion school. We have interviewed all teachers, staff, and administrators at the school. We're in the process of interviewing students and their parents, and we're also in the process of interviewing core project team members. The way this project works is that the research component of the grant informs the way then that the core project team works to implement new ideas as we work across year after year of the development of the dual language immersion school. Now, shifting gears a bit, I'm going to share some examples of statewide engagement projects. One statewide engagement project involves the LRCC developing Wyoming principal literacy modules. The LRCC got a call from the president of the Elementary Principals Association, and the president said it would be really helpful if the LRCC could develop modules focused on different key areas in literacy, including but not limited to phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, and so forth. In a few minutes, I'll share some examples from these modules, and the module I'll focus on includes fostering homeschool connections. Now, each of the modules that we've been developing includes an introduction from the Wyoming State Superintendent of Public Instruction, an expert video. With respect to the expert videos, we contacted leading scholars across the U.S. in each of the major areas where we're developing videos. Each module includes additional resources. We interview different principals and leaders and teachers across the state of Wyoming with respect to the content of each module, and includes ideas for taking actions in classrooms, schools, and communities. Now, with respect to the module pertaining to homeschool connections, we interviewed Professor Patricia Edwards, who's a scholar at Michigan State University and has spent her entire very extensive career studying homeschool connections. As you can see on the slide, Professor Edwards is up in the corner of the slide, and she's sharing different resources and ways to work effectively with parents to foster homeschool connections in teachers' schools. In that same module, we interviewed Amy Bell, the principal of the Big Piney LaBarge Elementary School, who watched the video, participated with the module, and then shared some of her thoughts and ideas about homeschool connections, about successful homeschool connections. An additional project includes about a year and a half worth of work that we did to develop with the Wyoming Department of Education to develop a K-3 literacy guidance framework. The purpose of this literacy guidance framework is to provide evidence-based guidance for K-3 literacy work in the state of Wyoming. This collaboration involved many people, as you can see on this slide, working across about a year and a half to develop this comprehensive framework. Each year, the Literacy Research Center and Clinic sponsors an annual literacy conference for educators and administrators across the state of Wyoming. This coming year, our literacy conference will focus on the science of reading. Each year, we bring nationally recognized scholars who bring in the latest state-of-the-art ideas and information about key literacy areas that are necessary both in the U.S. and in Wyoming. Now, I'll end by talking about one of my current favorite projects that we're working on in conjunction with the Wyoming Department of Education. Several years ago, the Wyoming legislature passed House Bill 76, which is the American Indian for All Education Act. One of the things that's happened in the ensuing years is that quite a few materials have been developed for grades 4 and above, but very few materials have been developed for K through 3. So working in conjunction with the Wyoming Department of Education at the LRCC, we are developing materials for K-3 teachers. With respect to the project description, we're consulting with the Eastern Shoshone and the Northern Arapaho tribes to co-design and co-develop these units with Wyoming K-3 teachers. And our goal is to build capacity, sustainability, and co-ownership among Wyoming educators and partners with respect to the American Indian for All education law. This slide illustrates some of the partners that are helping us on this project. And we note, for example, the Eastern Shoshone Business Council and Tribe, the Northern Arapaho Business Council and Tribe, and the Wyoming Department of Education. I've appreciated the opportunity to share with you some of the many projects that my colleagues and I in the LRCC are engaged in as we study and enact literacy learning opportunities in collaborative communities of practice across Wyoming. Thank you.